You're listening to Audiology. Support this channel by becoming a member and be sure to submit your requests for topics in the comments below. In the study of the French Revolution, the term Thermidorian reaction refers to a key period that started with the removal of Maximilien Robespierre on July 27, 1794, known in the French revolutionary calendar as the 9th of Thermidor, year 2, and lasted until the French Directory took office on November 2, 1795. This phase got its name from the month of the coup and represented the final stretch of the National Convention's governance over France. It's most notable for putting an end to the Reign of Terror, spreading out the concentrated executive powers previously held by the Committee of Public Safety, and moving away from the extreme policies set by the Jacobin-controlled Montagnard Convention toward a more balanced approach. During this time, the Convention members, eager to move on from the centralized control and the extreme measures of the Terror, shifted toward policies that would win broader support. There was a step back from economic extremisms, forced de-Christianization, and the harsh policies enacted during the war. The reaction also included a hard push against leftist groups with the use of severe force, including massacres, the shutdown of the Jacobin Club, dispersing the revolutionary sans-culottes, and a clear move away from Montagnard ideology. Essentially, it was a turning point that sought to establish a more stable political environment after the upheaval of the Terror. The term Thermidorian comes from an important date, the 9th of Thermidor, year 2, which corresponds to July 27, 1794, based on the French Republican calendar. On this day, Maximilien Robespierre and a group of radical revolutionaries faced a strong backlash in the National Convention. The Thermidorian reaction is the name given to the period that followed, leading up to when the National Convention was replaced by the Directory. It is sometimes also called the era of the Thermidorian Convention. Key figures from this time include Paul Barras, Jean-Lambert Tallien, and Joseph Fouché. In late July 1794, a conspiracy to overthrow Maximilien Robespierre, the dominant figure in the Committee of Public Safety, took shape. On the 9th of Thermidor, or July 27th by the calendar we use, Jean-Lambert Tallien, who had previously served as president of the National Convention, openly criticized Saint-Just and accused Robespierre of tyranny. Jacques-Nicolas Billaud-Varenne joined in on the criticism, and soon there were loud calls for Robespierre's arrest, with shouts of, "Down with the tyrant! Arrest him!" echoing through the chamber. Robespierre tried to rally support from the deputies on the right side of the political spectrum, but he didn't succeed. The National Convention then issued an arrest warrant for Robespierre and his key supporters. In response, troops loyal to Robespierre and stationed in Paris attempted to free him and his imprisoned allies. To quash this insurrection, the Convention deployed its own military forces under the command of Paul Barras. Meanwhile, Robespierre and his followers were holed up at the Hôtel de Ville, barricading themselves inside. The Convention swiftly declared them outlaws, which meant they could be executed without a trial within 24 hours. When Barras's troops closed in on the Hôtel de Ville around 2 a.m. on July 28, the forces inside deserted Robespierre. He was found with a broken jaw from a gunshot wound, which might have been self-inflicted, and was arrested alongside most of his associates. The very same day, Robespierre was guillotined along with 21 of his closest allies. This group included significant figures like François Henriot, the former commander of the Parisian National Guard, Jean-Baptiste Fleuriot-Lescaut, the mayor of Paris, Georges Couthon, Louis-Antoine de Saint-Just, and René-François Dumas, who was the former president of the Revolutionary Tribunal. Their execution marked a dramatic turning point in the French Revolution. The turning point of the French Revolution came with the events of the 9th of Thermidor. What followed was the Thermidorian regime, which was not well liked and faced numerous uprisings after the execution of Robespierre, his allies, and 70 members of the Paris Commune, in what was Paris's largest mass execution. This left France in a very unstable state. The downfall of Robespierre didn't mean people stopped looking for those to blame. Anyone associated with him, including members of the Jacobin Club and their supporters, as well as those thought to be former revolutionaries, were targeted. This period of violent backlash was dubbed the White Terror, with much of the violence being carried out by the Muscadin, stylish young men supported by the new government who took to the streets. Victims often faced prison massacres or trials that lacked basic legal standards, mirroring the injustices seen during the Reign of Terror, though on a lesser scale. Moreover, the economic policies of the time led to severe inflation, with power eventually landing in the hands of the Directory, a 5-man executive that took over in November of 1795. This new regime excluded the Montagnards from power, even those who had opposed Robespierre. The White Terror led to numerous imprisonments and hundreds of executions, mainly of those on the political left, though these numbers were lower than those seen during the previous Reign of Terror. Following the events of the 9th of Thermidor, 70 members of the Paris Commune were sentenced to death, diminishing the Commune's power. In a bid to stabilize the country, those associated with the era of terror were called to account for their actions. Some, like Tallien and Barras, were reinstated in leadership roles, while others were exiled to South America. Some managed to avoid capture. The government closed many Jacobin clubs and eventually extended freedom of worship throughout France. Economic measures such as abolishing the maximum, a price control system, led to increased inflation as the government continued to issue assignats. Protests and riots broke out in April and May of 1795, escalating to an invasion of the Convention on the 20th of May. The Convention responded by having troops quash the rebellion. Around the same time, a so-called White Terror saw Jacobins being targeted across France, a reversal of roles from the September massacres, with imprisoned officials of the Terror now the victims. Expressions of royalist sentiment became more common in Paris. Meanwhile, French military successes abroad boosted the Convention's prestige. A new constitution drafted on the 22nd of August 1795 scaled back some of the previous constitution's democratic elements, introducing measures such as an electoral college to preserve the current power structure. A royalist revolt on the 5th of October was swiftly put down by General Napoleon Bonaparte, famously using a whiff of grape shot. Following this, the convention dissolved itself on the 25th of October, paving the way for the Directory's establishment on the 2nd of November 1795. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more content.